than its name was now needed to evoke horror, would be seen as among the world's bleakest locations. Yet little, if anything, regarding Kishinev's riot would be either clear-cut or simple. Meticulously documented then and later, it would inspire a veritable thicket of myths extending well beyond the confines of Jewish communal or political life. Its impact, surprisingly enough, felt on endeavors as varied as the pre-state Haganah, or nascent Israeli army, the NAACP, and the protocols of the elders of Zion. Simple the story would not be, even in terms of its most obvious details, from the moment it occurred. Hence the pertinence of the account of Sergei Urusov, appointed governor-general of the Bessarabia province, Kishinev was its capital, to replace his disgraced successor soon after the pogrom. He relates in his memoirs how at the time of his appointment he knew as little about the region as he might have about faraway New Zealand, and felt fortunate that a guidebook to the area had just been published. He pored over the book during his journey from St. Petersburg and carried it with him on his first few days in the provincial capital. He had the volume in hand as he made his way into one of the worst of the city's neighborhoods, known as Lower Kishinev, or Old Town, the epicenter of the April anti-Jewish massacre. There, he writes, he sought the river that was reported nearby. Nearing the end of town, I vainly tried to see the river mentioned. For a long time, I could not bring myself to identify it with the little, ill-smelling pool, in places not wider than a yard, without current, and with no green on its banks. Thus, the first statement I gained from the experience of others, that Kishinev is located on the river Bik, proved to be incorrect. There is no river, or even a brook, in Kishinev. The river Bik does indeed exist, a modest extension of the Dniester River. In the hot months of summer when Urusov first saw it, it would in fact have been reduced to little more than a swamp. Still, the passage haunts because the object of Urusov's frustration is a guide to Bessarabia, published in Moscow in 1903, written by one Pavel Krushevan, who was soon also to publish, and likely write or co-write, the first version of the most infamous forgery in modern history, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. The image of Urusov, a well-intentioned Russian official quite sympathetic to Jews, hunting on a sweltering summer day for a river described in a book written by one of the world's most notorious fantasists, provides a bracing entry point for our tour of Kishinev, too. I construct this book in a series of essay-like chapters. The first chapter explores how Kishinev's riot would come to serve as the bedrock for so much subsequent knowledge, accurate and inaccurate, about pogroms and their origins and significance. I explore how the term, soon among the best-known Russian words in the world, would garner a new, chilling infamy in Kishinev's wake. Pogrom was now embraced as the most relevant of ways to understand the condition of Russian Jewry. I then examined Bessarabia, which was annexed by Russia in the first years of the 19th century and still coveted a century later by Romania, whose borders were only a few dozen miles west of Kishinev. It was a poor, mostly illiterate region, rich in agricultural resources, but inadequately farmed, where Jews played a visible role as shop owners and artisans in the cities and towns, and as middlemen in the countryside. I also looked closely at Kishinev and the place of Jews in its communal and cultural life, and I explain why its Jews were truly shocked by the severity of the 1903 pogrom. Little in the daily rhythms of life there would have predicted that an outbreak of this sort was in the offing. The next section looks at the pogrom itself through many different eyes. Likely the best documented event in Russian Jewish history, the sources on it are vast. These include transcripts of victim testimonies, court records of those accused of crimes during the riot, and journalism in Western languages as well as Russian, Yiddish, and Hebrew. This material offers the opportunity for an hour-by-hour exploration of the pogrom. Kishinev was the first instance where the inner life of Russia's Jews